Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And depending on when you're listening to this, the impetus for this particular podcast is a training that I'm going to be offering in October of 2023 called Get Shit Done. And so if this is something that appeals, check out michaelneill.org and you can join us for that program. But whether or not you do that, the question that I've had come up again and again and again over the years in my coaching is somebody goes, why don't I blank? Why can't I get myself to this thing that I think I should have done? Why? And the answer is always in people's minds some version of, what's wrong with me that I don't do what I'm supposed to do? What's wrong with me that I won't pay my bills on time? What's wrong with me that I don't follow through on this opportunity? What's wrong with me that I watch all these things that I'm supposed to do for work pile up until it's totally overwhelming? What's wrong with me that? And what I will always point out to people is that's, by definition, the wrong answer. Because the one thing that is true of you and every human being on the planet is that there is nothing wrong with you. You do not need fixing. You do not need repair. You may have some unhelpful habits, and you may not really have a mastery of your own equipment. In other words, you might not really know how well you're made. But you are made perfectly. And then the question becomes, well, okay, if there's really nothing wrong with me, and most people don't believe that, but they're willing to go along for the ride, then why don't I do what I don't do? And in all the time I've been asking people that question, the answers always come down to some combination of two things. And the first one is, you don't really want to. You just think you should. We all have these epic lists of things we think we're supposed to do, and we try and convince ourselves that we want to do them. When in fact, if you don't really want to do something and there isn't an immediate consequence to not doing it, you probably won't do it. It's that simple. And so the primary reason you don't do what you don't do is you don't really want to. But the other reason, and this one is subtler and sometimes less obvious at first glance, is you've made up that doing it is going to suck. You've made up that doing it's going to be hard. You've made up that it's going to take a long time. You've made up that it's going to be miserable or boring. And so whenever you think about it, you just kind of find yourself, I'll get to it later. Now, one of the ways that this can come out, I was talking to a client recently, and they were talking about doing taxes. And they said, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't done my taxes since 2019. And I mean, I really do want to. I just, can't seem to get myself to do it. And I said, if you were if the bookkeeper that you got to help you was like this person was single, it was the sexiest person you've ever met, and you were going to have to spend the whole time doing it with them, would that get you to do it quicker? And they were like, oh yeah. And I said, then the reason you're not doing it is because you've made up it's not going to be fun. Because as soon as I make up a fun version of doing it, you're all in. Now, how do you make use of this knowledge? Well, one thing is to recognize that just recognizing that the problem isn't that there's something wrong with you clears up a lot. Then realizing that there's probably a bunch of stuff on your list that you just don't want to do and probably don't have to will clear up even more. But if it's that you've just made up it'll suck, or it'll be boring, or it'll be miserable, or it'll be hard, and you'll have a horrible experience, there's really two ways to address that. The most common one is to try and make it fun, right? That's the Mary Poppins principle. In any job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap. The job's a game. Well, that's true. And so you can often find ways of making things fun. But there's something that I found that's even simpler, which is just stop making up that you know what experience you'll have of doing it. Because as you've probably experienced again and again and again, when you actually do something, it's rarely as bad as you've made up it's going to be. And so you can kind of shortcut the process by just showing up, doing it, and finding out what it's like. And it's remarkable how often it's fine at worst, and often it's surprisingly fun. So if you do want to learn more about this and you happen to be listening to this in September of 2023, then please do check out Get Shit Done and at michaelneill.org. But if not, then just take some time to this week be with your to-do list, in particular your things that you keep putting off doing or haven't gotten around to doing. And if there was nothing wrong with you, is it because you don't really want to, you just think you should? Or is it because you've made up it'll suck? And what happens if you just stop believing that? Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.